Imagine sitting with a friend, maybe over a cup of coffee, and the conversation turns to why the world feels so complicated. You probably recognize that stubborn feeling of being right, that inner certainty that your way of seeing things is the correct one. We all have that. It's like a default setting in our minds. But what if that very certainty, that instinct to defend our position, is the very thing keeping us from a simpler, more peaceful way of living? This is a puzzle that consumed the last 30 years of Leo Tolstoy's life, the famous author of War and Peace, and his journey led him to a powerful and challenging idea. After his literary fame, Tolstoy went through a deep personal crisis. He had everything society said should make a person happy: wealth, fame, a noble title. Yet he found himself utterly miserable, questioning the point of it all. In his search for answers, he dove into the teachings of Jesus, particularly the Sermon on the Mount, and he came to a startlingly simple conclusion. The core of Jesus' message, he believed, was not about building grand churches or following complex rituals. It was about one thing: non-violence. Not just the obvious violence of war, but the everyday violence we accept from the systems we live in. He saw that the state, any state, ultimately rests on the threat of force. Police, armies, prisons. Their power comes from the ability to harm or cage people who disobey. Tolstoy argued that a true Christian, someone who genuinely tries to follow the command to resist not evil, cannot logically support a system built on that foundation. This led him to become a Christian anarchist, someone who believes that human society can and should organize itself through voluntary cooperation and love, without the need for a coercive government. He put it plainly himself, writing, "The anarchists are right in everything, in the negation of the existing order, and in the assertion that without authority, there could not be worse violence than that of authority under existing conditions." He wasn't endorsing chaos. He was pointing out that the violence of the state is often so ingrained we don't even see it, while we fear a violence without the state that might not even exist. His solution was a return to simple, manual labor, living off the land, and rejecting the pursuit of wealth and power that fuels the machine of the state. Now, this idea creates a natural tension inside us. On one hand, we have our instinctive thinking. This is the part of us that gets defensive, that wants to protect what we have, that argues, but this is just how the world works. It's the voice of habit and fear. Many of us cling to familiar ideas because they feel safe, even if they cause us stress. They're known. Then, there's a deeper awareness. This is the part that sometimes whispers, especially in quiet moments, that something is off. That maybe the endless pursuit of more money, a bigger house, a higher status, is a game that never really satisfies. Remember when you were a kid and you realized a belief you held, maybe about Santa Claus or a childhood hero, wasn't quite true? There was a moment of discomfort, but then a clearer understanding of the world emerged. That same process happens throughout our lives if we let it. Tolstoy would say that our instinctive mind is constantly fooling us into accepting the violence and complexity of the state and modern life as normal and necessary. It justifies paying taxes that fund armies. It argues for harsher punishments in prisons. It tells us we need to compete and win at all costs. This is the self-deception he wanted to expose. He believed that by turning to that deeper awareness, through reason, conscience, and a sincere reading of moral teachings, we could see through the illusion. It's not about becoming a perfect person. It's about recognizing the ways we are all complicit in supporting systems. We might have a gut feeling are wrong. We might support a war from a distance because our instinct for tribalism is triggered. All the while, our deeper awareness feels uneasy about the human cost. We might chase a promotion we don't even want because society says we should, ignoring our deeper desire for more time and less stress. The struggle isn't to immediately change the whole world. It starts with noticing this conflict within yourself. When you feel that certainty, that defensive urge, pause. Ask if it's coming from a place of fear and habit, or from a place of genuine love and understanding. Tolstoy's call to simple living was about stripping away the distractions that keep us listening only to the loud, instinctive voice, so we can better hear the quieter, wiser one. It's about aligning your daily life with your deepest moral understanding, however imperfectly. This isn't an easy path. It means questioning everything you've been taught is important. But it's a path toward a genuine inner peace that doesn't depend on external power or possessions. This cracks open the entire foundation of how we've been taught to see the world. We start noticing things simply, like a child does. We see that hitting someone is wrong, that taking what isn't yours is wrong, that lying causes pain. This is our innate moral compass, the one we are all born with before the world layers on its complicated rules. It's the simple, direct understanding that violence is a failure, not a solution. In this beginning phase, life feels clear. Our choices are straightforward because they are guided by this internal sense of right and wrong, a feeling that love and cooperation are the natural ways for people to exist together. We trust this feeling. It is pure and uncomplicated. But then we enter the confusing middle, and this is where things get intensely difficult. The world, as Tolstoy saw it, is a master of complication. It presents us with a constant stream of justifications for setting aside that simple, inner truth. You might be someone who resists change at first, clinging to the familiar systems we were raised to believe in, even when they clash with our core values. This is the phase of cognitive dissonance. We are told that a soldier killing is an act of heroism, but if a person kills in a street fight, it is a crime. We are told that taxes collected under threat of imprisonment are for our own good, yet taking money by force is theft. Most of us feel uneasy during these transitions, caught between the simple truth we feel inside and the complex, often contradictory explanations offered by state and society. Tolstoy called this the hypnosis of the world, a powerful illusion that convinces us violence is necessary, even righteous, when dressed in a uniform or written into law. This middle phase is tough because it asks us to question everything we've accepted as normal. It feels lonely and disorienting, like waking up from a dream and not knowing what is real. This struggle, however, is not a sign of failure, but a necessary friction that leads to a new clarity. The way out of the confusing middle is not through more complex intellectual arguments, but through a return to that initial simplicity, now chosen consciously as adults. This is where Tolstoy's main contrast becomes our guiding light, the difference between a knee-jerk reaction and a thoughtful response. A knee-jerk reaction is to support a war because the news says we must, to obey a law because it is the law. It is automatic, fueled by fear, patriotism, or habit. A thoughtful response is to pause and ask the simple, childlike question: does this cause harm? Does this involve violence? Does this align with my duty to love my neighbor? You may catch yourself pausing before reacting lately, and that pause is the birthplace of this new clarity. We begin to consciously withdraw our consent from the machinery of state violence. We start to simplify our lives, not as an aesthetic choice, but as a moral one, reducing our dependency on the systems that perpetuate the violence we now reject. This new clarity isn't about having all the answers for how a large society should function. It is about achieving an unwavering personal integrity. It is the quiet conviction that we will no longer be complicit in the violence we denounce, whether through our taxes, our votes, or our silent acceptance. We see the state's monopoly on force for what it is, and we choose a different path rooted in mutual aid, voluntary cooperation, and radical personal responsibility. The journey ends not with a perfected world, but with a perfected intent within ourselves. We return to the beginning, to the simple truth that violence is wrong, but now we hold it with the fierce and unwavering commitment of someone who has walked through the confusion and chosen the light. Our lives become our argument, a quiet testament to the idea that another way is not only possible, but is the only way that aligns with the deepest truth we carry inside. Through this discomfort, we begin to see the faint outlines of a new path, one that isn't paved with the certainties we once clung to, but is instead lit by a different, more gentle kind of light. It's the light of curiosity, of asking questions without needing immediate answers, of sitting with the unease and listening to what it has to teach us. This phase isn't about fighting the feeling or trying to instantly resolve it. It's about allowing it to be our guide, a subtle internal compass, pointing us toward growth that our old, comfortable self couldn't even conceive of. We start to realize that this feeling of being lost isn't a sign of failure, but rather an indication that we are on the verge of something significant, a personal evolution that requires the shedding of an old skin to make way for the new. This process of shedding is rarely a single dramatic event, but a series of small, almost imperceptible releases. We might catch ourselves in a moment of frustration, about to react in a way that feels familiar, but deep down we know is unhelpful, and instead, we pause. In that pause, something shifts. We choose a different word, take a deep breath, or simply acknowledge the old pattern without following its command. These tiny victories accumulate, building a new foundation of self-awareness brick by brick. You'll likely find daily decisions coming easier, not because the decisions themselves are less complex, but because the internal noise that used to accompany them, the second-guessing, the need for external validation, begins to quiet down. It's as if we've been trying to hear a beautiful piece of music while standing next to a loud generator, and someone has finally switched it off. As the generator's roar fades, we start to hear the music of our own intuition more clearly. We begin to trust those gut feelings we used to talk ourselves out of. We notice that situations which once would have sent us into a spiral of anxiety now feel manageable. Many notice old frustrations don't bother them as much. The long line at the grocery store, the sudden change of plans, the critical comment from a colleague, these things lose their power to derail our entire emotional state. This isn't because we've become passive or indifferent, but because our center of gravity has shifted. We are no longer so easily knocked off balance because we have a firmer understanding of who we are and what truly matters to us, separate from the expectations and opinions that once dictated so much of our lives. This journey inward often reveals how much of our identity was built on a foundation of things we simply absorbed from the world around us. Our family's beliefs, our culture's definitions of success, the curated perfection of social media. We unknowingly accepted a pre-written script for our lives, and the discomfort we felt was the friction of our authentic self rubbing against the constraints of that borrowed narrative. It's a universal experience, this realization that we've been living a life designed by committee, and it's why the words of a fortune teller or a generalized personality description can feel so eerily accurate. We see ourselves in the vague description because we are all, on some level, trying to fit into the roles we believe we are supposed to play. Letting go of that script is the real work of becoming who we are meant to be. And in that letting go, we find a surprising sense of liberation. The energy we once spent maintaining a facade, managing perceptions, and striving for an impossible ideal is suddenly freed up. That energy can now be channeled into creation, into connection, into simply being present in our own lives. We start to engage with the world from a place of genuine interest rather than obligation, from curiosity rather than fear. Our relationships begin to change as we show up more authentically, attracting people who appreciate us for who we are rather than for who we are pretending to be. The mask, once so firmly glued into place, starts to feel unnecessary and heavy, and we experiment with setting it down, first in small, safe moments, and then more fully. This isn't to say that the path becomes perfectly smooth from here on out. Life will always have its challenges and its moments of pain. The difference is that we are no longer meeting those challenges from a place of fragility, but from a place of resilience that we have built ourselves through conscious effort and self-reflection. We understand that discomfort is not an enemy to be avoided at all costs, but a messenger, and often a catalyst. We learn to welcome it, to ask it what it has come to teach us, and in doing so, we continuously evolve. The goal is not to reach a final destination of permanent happiness, but to become a person who can navigate the full spectrum of human experience with grace, compassion for ourselves, and a deep-seated knowledge that we are capable of handling whatever comes our way. Together we discover that this entire process, from the first prickles of unease to the hard-won peace of self-acceptance, is about reclaiming our own narrative. It's about writing our own script, one that honors our complexities, our passions, and our unique place in the world. We stop comparing our behind the scenes to everyone else's highlight reel and start appreciating the raw, unedited, beautiful mess of our own journey. We find joy in the ordinary moments and strength in our vulnerabilities. This is the ultimate shift, moving from a life lived by default to a life lived by design, a life that feels truly and authentically our own. And in this space of hard-earned authenticity, we can finally appreciate the profound physical truth in Leo Tolstoy's key insight about freedom, that it is not the absence of restraint, but the presence of alignment, like finally taking off shoes that never quite fit and feeling the solid, welcoming earth beneath your bare feet.